What I feel is that nothing of substance is gained without a risk. And I also feel that even as a representative of UNM, I think you get more when you give. That's the uniqueness that we have to offer. And that's the reason, that's the synergy that students from a high-powered design school typically are not going to have the experience to do the construction, and that we have the depth of doing with our program and our green technology program. And it's that overlap of highly trained design students working with fairly fundamentally sound vocational students, and they could both do something stronger than either can individually. If you look at the design projects that are being done by some of the more high-profile design build programs, they rarely have advanced electric or plumbing or mechanicals, because that's not a skill that's typically taught in architecture school. So that's kind of the unique niche that I think is really exciting to develop. From my conversations with different instructors around the country, design build is a very talked about. It's a hot property in terms of design education, and that when students come out, we have a big project for students to actually work on, do some, maybe a week in a classroom setting, but to be on a large construction site where we're making adobe bricks, where we're building walls, where we're really doing hands-on work. The reason that I see this program having some unique value is that we have architecture students typically in urban areas who are learning very advanced design skills, and yet historically there's a big disconnect between the architect's understanding of design and the architect's hands-on knowledge of construction. So what I think is the really exciting and interesting possibility is here in Taos, New Mexico, where we do have the space and we have this green technology program, given that we're teaching basic electric, basic plumbing, solar thermal installation, photovoltaic installation, weatherization, we can incorporate all of those into small but real projects. And architecture students, who I think would also benefit greatly from this, can kind of jump in headfirst and get an intensive immersion summer experience and enhance their knowledge of construction.
I really learned a lot in terms of how a process of either redesigning a space like a restaurant, or even just the beginnings of designing a house, and also doing it in a sustainable way. In New York City, I learned more about design and not focusing anything about sustainable design. So here I learned a lot about mostly Adobe construction, but I feel like from that knowledge and from solar sustainable design, I can then bring it back to New York. And that's what I mostly learned about. And I really think that was necessary, because again, in New York, I would not have had that time from someone to have been willing to give me their knowledge on solar sustainable construction.
Taos, I think culturally, it's a really rich area to have a summer design build program, or a fall or a spring program with the historic lessons to be looked at with the Taos Pueblo, a housing project that's been there for 900 years, looking at the historic Adobe churches and historic Adobe architecture, the experiments of Mike Reynolds with his airships, UNM-Taos. I just see a hub of sustainable design build activity, and something. It's one of the areas that I think, and actually I know from being an architecture student in the Northeast and from talking to architecture students around the country, that there's a thirst and a hunger for hands-on knowledge in that and how to do this stuff. And it's been across the country, and I'm assuming around the world, there's a structural disconnect between the trades profession and the design professions, with either side not understanding what the other sides do. And I think this would be a great laboratory, to work on enhancing collaboration. And I think it's lessons that people can use, throughout their career.